So today we are talking about smart governance and the impact of data and AI on the state. And I have with me two experts that both are in a perfect position to talk about this. To my right, I have Anastasia Kalinina. She's a social innovator and expert in public governance and global affairs. She's a co-founder and CEO of Restate Foundation and also of Supersymmetry, a non-profit organization focused on reimagining governance, civic engagement, and systems change. Good evening, Anastasia, and a warm welcome to you. And to her right is Manuel Kilian. He's the managing director of the Global Government Technology Centre in Berlin, a collaboration between GovTech Germany and the World Economic Forum. A warm welcome to you as well. I think you both returned from Davos, is that correct? So very good. I think we might also take on board some of the learnings from there. But perhaps let's first dive in the title, which is the Agentic State. Now I can tell you, my personal experience with the state recently has been that as I founded this company, I waited for 4 months for my tax number. The consequence being, if you don't have a tax number, you can't actually invoice somebody officially. So the reality we have at the moment is that the state is, not to talk it down, and it does many wonderful things, but in many ways, it's super far off from, any agentic vision. So I think what we also want to look into today is how do we get there, right? The question of the summit we're asking here always is, so what's the next 2-3 steps? And first of all, Manuel, can you give us a bit of an insight into this? And then Anastasia has brought some slides also to look into the data that you have created with your foundation to inform how we actually get there and how we inform governance and make it smarter. What is the Agentic State? Manuel, you have written a paper on it and done a lot of research. Can you give us an intro to this?
Yeah, a pleasure, and thanks for having us. And just one remark about the tax number. I had to wait 6 months, and I think this is.
I feel better now.
That's not a matter of agentic AI or not. I mean, this can also work in different locations, irrespective of AI agents. But to very briefly talk you through what I mean with agentic state. So first, look, agentic AI, I always explain it to myself that it's the brain and the hands together. So the brain, that's the LLMs, that's the Gen AI, and the hands, that's sort of the workflows, right? So it's the intelligence applied to workflows, and this combination of having something in the mind and being able to do something then with your hands applied to workflows, this is how I understand from myself agentic AI. And now if you look at government, the fabric of government or the fabric of state is codified workflows. After all, government is about laws, government is about regulations, government is about rules, and all of this is like a very good, very precise, articulation of workflows. And if you bring those two things together and share the understanding that I have for agentic AI and project it onto government, and you accept the hypothesis that government is codified workflows, you sense that the use case of agentic AI for governments is really, really big. So what we did with, by now, a couple of research papers is that we decoded where agentic AI can have an impact on the state. And we ran through what it means for public service design. We ran through what it means for internal workflows, something that I'm really excited about because that would solve many of the problems that we experience as citizens. We ran it through compliance, we ran it through rule and policy making, we ran it through crisis response, we ran it through public procurement. And for all of this, we outlined a very clear vision of how state behavior can differ or can modernize if we apply agentic AI at scale. I must also say that we ran through a couple of more dimensions, supporting dimensions, which is what happens to the governance. So how can we make sure how agents decide for the state, concepts like bounded authority and bounded independence for agents there. We ran it through the tech stack, we ran it through data and privacy, we ran it through cybersecurity, we ran it through how you buy agents, we ran it through organizational design. And I mean, all of this then, if you have the different implementation areas together with those supporting layers that you have to think through, this is, I think, what gives you the vision of the agentic state. And that's something, as you say, like we had a paper last year in May, and then we had another one, a very big one, where also we had 21 government leaders, including, for example, the digital minister of Ukraine, like supporting us in writing this. That was, I think, the intellectual basis. And from now on, it's just, I mean, us doing more stuff on this, and quite honestly, trying to put government in a position where they're able to use technology to our all best interests. That's a continuous effort, and this is something that I'm very excited about to further build it in this year.
Thanks for illustrating the vision, and I want to dive into it more later on. But now I also want to understand better, Anastasia, the work that you're doing also on the city level when it comes to making administration more data-driven, making leadership better informed. Your organization does work not just on Europe but around the world, and you have brought some slides to illustrate the work that you're doing. So please take it away. You can click here to go forward, and here go backward.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Joseph. Really good to be here. Before we dive into this, and maybe that's even a matter of a separate question, but maybe as an opening thing, I would like to also address the agentic state, the way we've been exploring it through a little bit of a different prism, yet very similar. But we've been exploring this with my foundations, Restate Foundation and Supersymmetry Institute, through the lens of systems change and system design. So if we consider that the previous generation of governments really focused on increasing governance efficiency, also quite questionable given the time it took you to open the companies, still, you know, this is the matter of like how fast these things happen. But the next aspiration for governments around the world with the agentic AI could be becoming properly agentic. And by that we mean that they must be capable of sensing reality as it unfolds, reasoning over vast pieces of information coming at them, making decisions over huge number of competing priorities, and coordinating bureaucracies. So this set of skills is a defining factor in governance of the future. And especially as right now the future of governance is under question with AI, it's really not a matter of making inefficient things faster, but really turning around what the role of the state really is, when intelligence, coordination, agency itself are partially outsourced and automated. So the larger question that I would want to ask for all of us to consider is how do we make sure that the role of government also upgrades so that it stays relevant in the age of AI, because there is still a chance that governments could become obsolete, for better or worse. So I'd like to maybe start here before we go to the city level, just to understand what the role of the government is. And actually to the efficiency question and how long it takes to open companies, there is now a special zone in Tanzania that was developed by some of our partners actually. They created a special governance experimentation zone where things could work differently. And so the time it takes to open a company there is under 3 minutes.
Next company I'll find in Tanzania then.
Yes, maybe consider that. That is not to say that, you know, it's like 100% efficient and this is what everybody should do, but at least it informs the thinking that government there has about these matters, you know, bold enough to at least experiment in those fronts. Successful or not, time will tell, but at least there is an attempt at it.
Thank you. As you've both been to Davos and you both are advising, you know, government leaders, what you just said, you know, this kind of systemic approach, the role of the state. I mean, who gets that from your perspective? Are there leaders, because we've been talking also about political leadership today, of course, that really understand that, you know, because if the leaders don't get it, how shall this ever then be implemented? So you know, do you see people, and can you name names of people you think have grappled with this?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Mikhailo, the back then digital minister, now defense minister from Ukraine. I mean, Google him and Agentic State. He's very keen, and I mean, there's pictures where he says like, Ukraine is going from the digital state to the agentic state. We work very closely with the United Arab Emirates together. They have a very clear aim to say like, there was also published during Davos to have X billion agents working in the economy, and the government is a key part of that. And I mean, I could name many different ones. So I mean,
can you name EU leaders?
The Italians and the CEO of the Italian digital agency, Mario Nobile, he gets it, and he gets it also out of this thinking that we really have to speed up things in Europe, you know. So I think there is hope. Finland, Mikko Matinen, who runs the Finnish digital agency, with whom we work closely, and you know, I think all of them who get a deeper truth that is in there, and I think this is really hard for governments to get, which is, if you look at how you ran states for the last 100 years, it's built on bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is really process compliance, and this worked, right? So the idea of bureaucracy is to get a certain result by following a certain process, and this is how modern states are designed. And I think with agentic AI, you move from the process compliance more towards the outcome efficiency, or like focused on outcomes, because you cannot always understand how agents come to a certain outcome. And it gets thereby more important to not focus on the process, but on the outcome. And the deeper truth in this is to say, like, it's going from doing things right, that's procedural correctness, to doing the right things, going to the outcomes. And I mean, this may sound trivial, but that's the entire antidote of how modern bureaucracies are designed. And going back to the text example, for example, Joseph, look, I mean, I think everything ran probably getting your text number procedurally totally correct, yet the outcome is not really good, right? So, I mean, from a procedural point of view, everything was good and everything was great as it went. But this is, I think, we have to replace this understanding. And I said, this is really hard for governments to do, to say, like, it's not about the process anymore. And if the process is very lengthy, then this is not cutting a deal. But we have to focus more on the outcome. And the outcome, obviously, is for you. You can't write invoices for 4 months, and that sucks. So that's where we have to focus on. And whoever get agentic AI for governments has understood that we have to move from the process to the outcome.
Thank you. But how do we get there? Or let me kind of perhaps water it a bit down. How do we get closer to that? So you're both organizations. So you have an institute, you have a foundation. So you are advising and are working with governments. The GovTech Centre is a very interesting, construct, as we heard, kind of a collaboration. But then in the end, of course, it has to be implemented in some way by someone in the administration, right? So if you think about, Germany or other European countries, how do you see this actually happening over the next, 3-4 years, if not, next 1 or 2? Anastasia, how would you, the systemic change, how would you help that happen?
All right. If you don't mind, Joseph, I never respond to the question you ask, but I would just like to add a couple of examples to the previous one, talking about Davos and everything that happened there, and the observations that we made, and then I'll jump to maybe some practical recommendations. But I think there are many experiments that are going on right now, of which I think we're not talking enough, usually because they're not happening close to home. They're happening elsewhere. But one project that we recently have started in the country of Botswana is their desire to do things differently. And it usually starts with the assessment of the current situation. So what we help them now build is understanding their future-proof capabilities as a government, and we start with assessing a current situation of how they govern themselves. which means that we do surveys of citizens, interviews with public servants, we understand the structure of the government, how it's working on silos or not, what exactly could be done and what the gaps are. And then they want to move to more regenerative governance, the governance that sort of operates from a different perspective and becomes a platform for the delivery of public service on the right level that citizens really deserve and want. Well, that's a great aspiration. We'll see about how it will manifest in reality. But countries like Barbados, for example, recently pulled a decentralized polling app where it constantly surveys its citizens, and also in a way that is, you cannot trace who said what, but you'll get the overall public sentiment about things. So I think really this kind of innovation, this kind of examples are really fruitful in understanding the realm of possibilities in our governance thinking. I think we just need, really, the problem of governance is not the technological issue, it's the issue of imagination, of being willing to try new things. But I think closer to home, I would definitely mention Estonia. Estonia is trying a few things. The CRAT system, the chatbots to work with citizens, is quite remarkable. I guess UK is doing a few things also on the agentic AI and chatbots and policy designs and policy forecasting. These things are just wonderful, and I think to your second question, what could be done? I would always say more government experimentation. Maybe if it's not scalable enough, like you cannot unroll it to the level of the whole nation state, at least start with governance experimentation zones, and the precedents are already out there. But I think we got to really encourage the expanded imagination around governance, because the status quo is really not working. I think what we've seen in Davos is the level of ambiguity and mixed signals and uncertainty is all-time high. So we got to admit things are falling apart a little bit. So there is a chance, actually I think it's a chance for us to step into our own greatness and really come up with bolder experiments on all facets, of course starting with governance.
Can I add something to that? Briefly also to Davos. So look, I was on the one hand I was quite pleased that GovTech is now a major topic that can run on such a major platform like the World Economic Forum. At the same time, it's very clear that the reasons for this being prominently discussed are rather geopolitical and not so much like in terms of public impact that it creates. So I'm a bit torn in between that. I mean, the discussions that we have also on the level of ministers and heads of states are really rather how can I make this more sovereign, and do I have any, how do I hedge? And obviously this is not what we'd like to see, because I genuinely believe that technology is an instrument for governments to create public impact. And that's implicitly a positive vision. And the discussions that we see right now around digital sovereignty are implicitly a negative vision, right? Because it's about potentially something, where you can lose stuff. So that's not so great, but still. And apart from that, I mean, obviously it's just a bit of a circus, everybody traveling to Davos, and I'm really rather be here than there, except for the fact that the weather was really good in Davos, and it's not here. But I mean, let's leave that. One thing about how to make it work for government, and look, I really believe that you have to find those people that are able and willing to make a change. It's not about countries, it's not about institutions, it's about individuals who gets it, who want to make a change, and what we focus on is get everything in their hands to make it as easy as possible. So this is really the one thing I sense that works. One thing about the experimentation, because I think that's interesting, if you have those agentic AI pilots, this is about technology. And this is I can vibe code much stuff and see how it works. So I think the pilots are getting ever and ever easier. But I think this, scaling it, that's not a technological question, but that's really a question of organizational change, because you will have organization working at two different speeds. You have the agentic speed, that's immediate, and then you have the human speed, and this is the slow administration that we know. Getting those two worlds together, it's a difficult thing. Then I talked about the transparency or the auditability of actions that agents take. I mean, you have to fit this into a system of public administration where you have auditability, where you have redress, where we as citizens can go to an ombudsman and can say, like, I'm not happy with the decision. And this is all stuff that you only think about if you scale. So I think for that matter, the pilots are rather easy, and really having it live at scale, this is what really matters. So I'm a little bit torn between to say, like, go and do experimentation, because I think this is not really going to bring us to more, at scale implementations. But I think to really make it work, I mean, outside of experimentation zones, this is what really matters in the long run.
Thanks. And when you, Anastasia, you speak of imagination, Manuel, you speak of the individuals that then, want to make change happen. Who, when you think about those individuals, who are those people? And then perhaps we can segue into the local level. But in governments, right? That in the administrations, in the experimental zones, who are those change? What roles do they have? Can you give me the job titles? What kind of level are they in? Would this be kind of middle management? Would this be the top management? Or do you need both? Do you need all of them? Who are those people, so that we can get a better idea? Who are the best, allies in that, and the best implementers? What's your take on that, Anastasia?
I think that would be a great segue to show you some stats from the city index that we recently released, because to me the answer to this question is city mayors, actually. If we take city as an ultimate unit of governance where real agile experimentation or lack thereof could happen, but any sort of like trying new things or scaling new things, then I think it really is cities. And so I would like to show you, we released just on the 21st of January, what we call the Global South Competitiveness Rating for Cities. Well, the emphasis is indeed on the Global South, so maybe slightly relevant to this particular discussion, but I think we also need to understand that this applies to all cities everywhere. And we call this report the Global Competitiveness Index of Cities in the Next Economy, because next economy is a unique combination of several factors. It's a twin transition that is a simultaneous integration of both green and digital transitions. It's shifting supply chains, heightened geoeconomic competition, so cities have to deal with reality given these factors. So we have actually studied 40 cities from the Global South and 8 cities from the Global North for benchmarking. So from Europe we had Amsterdam, London, and Budapest actually as a novel hub for new processes, and quite economically successful. And so we assessed against 350 criteria, ranging from economic situation enabling environments, to business sophistication, to fiscal resources and systems, to governance capabilities, institutional capabilities, to the hard infrastructure of real estate and built environment, connectivity, mobility, digital data and infrastructure, to very soft infrastructure of human capital and education, and overall livability of cities. So to date, this is the most comprehensive assessment of cities there is. And so it was interesting to receive the results because we've done open source information. We also did surveys of executives and public servants in those cities. And these are the results we got. I don't know if you could see it clearly. The most interesting finding is that at the top tier, there's almost near elimination of north to south gap. So it's not just New Yorks and Londons of the world anymore. Number one, Singapore, and then you can see Dubai, Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Abu Dhabi ranking at the top. So top tier cities, we now have a mix of both south and north, which means that cities are leapfrogging, and those traditional champions are now given place to the new players who are actually, doubling down on both the experimentation and scaling, and just trying to make things work. Again, here I think it could be an interesting segue to talk about, the future of democracy and where Europe stands, because certain trade-offs I think Europe just not do, and rightfully so. But at the same time, Europe is the beacon of the future of governance. And at the age of AI, there is a chance to also leapfrog for Europe, which I don't think it's using fully. So this is just the reality check and see, the advancements around the world that Europe should be aware of. But really, everything just boils down to how we go about several strategic priorities as cities. The base of everything is future-proof governance. The base of everything is how governance capacities and capabilities of cities really are, and that's often the question for mayors. Then the business environment of the city is crucially important, of course. And then, of course, as a result of that, you see the economic and the creative output of the city. So this is just a few takeaways because it's super fresh and recent. But I think if cities on the city level, European mayors take this slightly more seriously and also try to understand their role as more agile units of governance, I think they could really be the champions of many of these agendas.
And do you see people, again, understanding the urgency? What I'm hearing often is that, the processes are the processes, they work more or less well. We're still doing okay, we don't want to become, Dubai, we don't want to be, this other city because we are whatever, Vienna, Lisbon, name it. So we work differently, and therefore, and this is, I think what you've been saying, we also ignore the other stuff, right, which we could learn from. So again, the question: do you see that this is changing? Because I cannot think of a more prevalent crisis other than war, probably, like a full war, within the heart of Europe, than we are in now, right? So if we don't get the urgency now, when will we get it? So what's your take on that? Are you hopeful also, if you talk to people, that finally, we get it, and we get our act together, or not?
That's a very good question. So I have a theory about where you see change and not, and unfortunately, I don't think it's really about the urgency, because if it was about urgency, we have enough urgency in Europe. But I sense that if I look where countries make change, it's usually three factors that come together. First, it's a certain trajectory of change. So societies are used to change. You saw that for the last 10 to 20 years, they changed. Then second, I think that's a certain level of political stability that gives the political leadership really the opportunity to say, like, we have, in 5 years we want to be there, in 10 years we want to be there. And the last thing is a positive attitude of society towards technology. When those three comes together, we see change. If they don't, it's really hard. And if you look at Germany, direct trajectory of change, zero. Positive attitude of technology towards the technology of society, very little. Political stability, really not so much. So this is just really, really hard here to make a change. And I mean, nevertheless, we have to make it work. And I believe that, look, it's like also a collective exercise for us to make it work, but it's just incredibly harder to do it here than to do it somewhere else. And I mean, I'm there also with you that, so that's the first theory, and I think like I'd also like to project that thinking on the list that you had about the cities, and I wonder like if this also can decode a little bit where we see cities moving forward or not. The other thing, Josef, is that what you just mentioned, the discussion that we have sometimes here of people saying, yeah, but we're going to be fine and that's all fine. Look, a discussion that I recently had, I went to Qatar, and they have a construction permit agent live. So you hand in your construction permit, and in 2 hours you get the construction permit back. 2 hours, right? I mean, this is live, that's running on scale. And I brought it back, and I had discussions here in Germany, and people were telling me, but it's not a democracy. And I was like, a construction permit, in my opinion, has relatively little to do with a democracy. Right? This is really about this, the core function of how the state operates, no matter if it's democracy or not. And I have the feeling sometimes here we have the arrogance of looking down on other political systems, of saying, yeah, but we are a democracy. And I can tell you, like, we won't be a democracy for long anymore if we don't fix the basic things of the state. For example, getting back a construction permit in reasonable time. And I mean, you sense that I can get a bit agitated about that, because I think it's really a problem here in the discussion, that we always sort of fall back to saying, yeah, but our system, our political system is superior. And I think we have to be clear, and we have to do this in discussions very openly, to saying that we have to earn this political system over and over and over again. And part of doing this is to get the basic functions of the state right. And that's just something where I feel we really have to shift gears and have different discussions here.
Yeah,
in Europe, in Germany in particular.
I think it's a case where the one thing that is, undoubtedly a good thing doesn't justify the other, right? So this is being used in a way to not make the change and keep things in place and keep interests as they are. At this point, I want to look at the audience, and I know it's been a long day for every one of you. But I don't know if somebody's here from a state institution and actually want to challenge us or fight back on that front, or if you want to just share a thought or ask a question. But let me look in the audience right now. If there's a hand being raised, yes, 2. Let me give you. Is this one working? Yes, there is. Thank you. There was, front row, and Christian, yes, thank you. We'll take both of them.
Oh, sorry, I'm the first one. I wanted to ask a question, because we've been talking a lot about the agentic state, and obviously I get that this is the groundworks, and especially looking at cities and communes and like smaller pieces, but I also wanted to ask, what about the agentic international organization or multilateral framework in general, or alliance, or call it what you want, anything that basically is between different states? How do we approach this, and how do we find a way to make the systems, which are sometimes even way more complex than a state is? You've got you've got NATO, where 32 allies try to find solutions together.
Anastasia is triggered, that? I can see.
Yeah.
In the most positive way. No, thank you for this question, first of all. Well, thank you, really, because I think this is exactly the level of mental exercising that we need to be doing. In the world of such defragmentation, where it's pretty much, I would say, anarchy right now, because what is anarchy? It's a state of lack of hierarchy. Right now, it's every country to itself. And when was really the last time that this world produced a new global institution? Where's the new Bretton Woods? Where's the new institutions to govern AI, to govern international cooperation? Because everything seems to be falling apart. So your question is ever relevant. And especially when it comes to agentic states, I think the World Economic Forum actually attempted at it by creating this League of Agile Nations. But again, this is not enough. There has to be a deep commitment on the level of countries to start those international alliances. Because right now, on the level of regulation, there has to be cross-regulatory platforms to govern that. There has to be data sharing platforms to understand the scale at which AI is operating. And also, interesting stats from Davos. Elon Musk sort of dropped by for a day or two and disrupted everything. And what he said is effectively by end of next year, AI will be smarter than any single one of us. And is it 2030 that he said that AI will be smarter than all of us together? So, isn't this the time for humanity to wake up and start playing the game that's called My Country is Better Than Yours, and really just get our act together and act as one humanity? And for that, the very basic layer would be creating international organizations for major global cooperation. But unfortunately, this is rather rhetoric, what I'm talking about, because we don't see much of an action on the ground for that. Maybe it's time to start something. I don't know if the audience will be interested.
Perhaps today is actually the start for a project between some of the people and organizations present here on the Agentic International Organization. What do you think, Manuel?
Yeah, it's a little bit of what we're doing already. So, would it be good and important to have such an organization right now? Yes, absolutely. Is it especially if you look at the pace, right? And I'd rather have it sooner than later. I sense, though, the bare minimum of what we can do right now is, states doing stuff individually, and then we share the learnings afterwards. So what we're working on, for example, right now is the implementation guidelines with which the Ukrainian government built an AI agent into their citizen app. they share it with us, and we compile it in a way that it's reusable for other governments to work with this. So it's one government pushing forward, and then what we absolutely can't do anymore is same governments doing similar mistakes. This is just very silly. But one doing stuff, trying to make it work, and then we sort of generalize the learnings, making it available to the global community. That's, I sense, something what we can do right now. Like building a multilateral organization around that is just like, let's be honest, it takes time. It's difficult to do. So I also feel that we need this more nimble, pragmatic ways of working forwards. And for that, yeah, what we just try is to work together with those governments able and willing to do something, get their learnings and share it to other governments.
Thank you very much. And we had a second question, Christina.
Yes, thank you. Like a few days ago, maybe 2-3 days ago, I heard like a TV radio comment about, I forgot, it was a city or a state in Germany that actually tries to be faster in administration stuff. So you basically hand in all the paperwork and they kind of assume it's correct as long as you filled out all the forms and it's all correct there. And I was actually kind of surprised that this is happening in Germany because, and that's I'm going to the point where you said that we are maybe too arrogant looking down on other kinds of countries and their form of democracy or not democracy, whatever. I think it's more a question, and I would like to hear your takes on that, about being afraid, because having this kind of regulations, making it slow, making it the correct way, also is kind of saving people in administration being on the right side, because I know people who work in administrations, like really low key in local cities, they are basically afraid to get sued or to get fired, and that is like really a culture shift that we have to do, don't we?
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's a good sign that we see this in Germany. Related to the point, where I think it's a bit nuanced differently, Carsten Linnemann, the General Secretary of the Christian Democratic Party, a couple of days ago, he said that let's do the following: if again construction permits, if the construction permit is lying in the administration for more than 3 months, it's automatically approved, right? And it's like there's a point in me that says like this is really interesting and that pushes into the right direction. But then I also say like that's the complete admission of failure for the state, because that means that you really can't handle it anymore, and that like the last idea that you have is just leave it to the citizens. So I think it's a good signal because something is changing, but it's also very drastic, a very sad signal that we have to use this last resort to move forward there. But I think as such, I mean, like the point that you make, I think it's absolutely right that we need a cultural change. And I just wished it would be done a bit more intelligently. So there, for example, a great example from the UAE, the governor of Dubai and head of state of the UAE once a year gives a prize to reduce bureaucracy on the biggest possible stage, which is the World Government Summit, which is a little bit the Davos in the desert. And it's awarded, and you get $100,000, I think, and everybody, both from administration and citizens, can hand it in. So the way bureaucracy is pictured there, or like reducing bureaucracy is pictured there, is something very, very positive. So just imagine that Steinmeier would say like once a year we do a huge party at Bellevue, and whoever hands in a proposal to kill bureaucracy or to reduce bureaucracy gets a prize and is awarded and gets a handshake with me and a photo. You know, I think the way we think about administration and bureaucracy really would change. But that's, I sense, the change that we need, and the reframing of the connotation of what bureaucracy should be for us and how we should deal with bureaucracy.
I have a couple of hands going up. Anastasia, you want to add something? Yeah.
Just quickly, we have the Creative Bureaucracy Festival. Right? But really, I think you're raising, just very quickly, a very important point about public servants being scared of failure, because the environment in those public offices are not it's not encouraging innovation. Let's put it this way. And this is how our friends at Better Politics Foundation recently came up with polling stats that the chronic anxiety rates in public servants globally is about 81%. So maybe in this kind of mental state, you don't want to experiment too much or bring out ideas that have very high chance of failing, and you will probably receive nothing if they somehow not fail. So this is the big question also around the whole mentality of public service and like what's expected and what people are praised for. Again, this is something to look into, but quite hard right now.
Thank you very much. We have time for 2 more questions. 1 and 2, please.
Hi, I have a question that relates more to AI and not so much to agentic AI. But has AI ever been used to figure out which parts of the, I'm going to stand up to here so you can both see me. So has AI ever been used to actually delete part of bureaucratic processes? Basically go in and say, hey, 50% of all of this is completely unnecessary, let's just get rid of it. Because nobody needs to do it, neither an agentic anything nor a human anything. It's just waste, yeah? But so can we not just use AI to go through all of these processes and just delete as much as possible? Has that ever been tried anywhere?
Yes, very much. So actually, this is right now the most current, the most frequent use of AI for governments is actually reducing high-level bureaucracy, especially repetitive processes. So in the UK alone, just like one function, I think it had to do with licensing actually. It helped reduce the human workload by some 1,200 years. No, hours, I'm sorry, hours per period. That would be excellent. But by 2030,
still
maybe
good,
yes.
Still good.
Hours, of course. But still, it's very significant. So it's about 80% of the reduction of the human workload. And that's effectively what AI is used for these days. Same with chatbots. Chatbots interact directly with citizens. And for example, in Argentina, there is a system called Protea, where it's preparing the court cases, the legal court cases before the humans look at it. Again, it increases efficiency by 90%, and this is exactly like the use of AI that we're observing largely.
Manuel?
When new legislation gets certified or gets voted on, one very recent example, my good friend and with whom I do all the Agentic State stuff, Lukas Ilves, the former CEO of Estonia, he built a tool where Estonian public servants can upload the legal proposals, and then the AI just checks, is it compliant, does it work, doesn't it work? And he did this because there was a fuck-up in Estonian laws, which led to the case that 2026, all the casinos in Estonia don't have to pay taxes. Right, and the AI would have found the mistake immediately. They didn't do this, and now they check it. I mean, Lucas vibe coded something, shipped it in a day, and now actually the Estonian government is working with this, right? So yeah, there I would say a good proof point that it's actually possible. But I mean, I think this also tells you that we're not talking about deep techish cases, but it's really like it's the basic stuff of how we all probably use ChatGPT. And bringing this to government alone, I mean, you don't have to think about the agentic state. I mean, if this is just like the basic level with which public servants use this, would already have a huge impact.
And the last question, Clemens.
I feel bad now because I'm crashing a bit of the party. And I was speaking about it yesterday and trying to put it a bit ironically of calling it AI is not your mom, to go a bit more into a think piece I was doing last year. This kind of pro-technic approach of the vision of, let's say, a machine that is doing kind of this legal stuff. This is, first of all, absolutely not new. This is like hundreds of years old. Think of all the stuff we've been going through. But the most recent topic which we see a big failure actually, and you referred to famous Elon and Davos. Who of you had heard of Doge? This famous slashing Washington's administration and firing thousands and hundreds and whatever of guys and then silently rehiring them because literally it doesn't work anymore. So what I really, really encourage, and maybe that's the reason why I'm not here on the stage, but yesterday on the hacker stage of speaking about this, please get the things together of making AI where it literally is an industrial workhorse. Of course, it shall be used to do batch work, batch migration of stuff and everything. Of course, this is nothing new. But please also don't create big visions of in like 5 years or 1 year, X, Y, Z will be cut out of the beer or AI will overtake what of this, all of the thinking process was. It won't. It's still society, it's still a democracy. This is of compromise. It's about us humans and us agreeing on how we're going to envision what and how we're going to live together. Of course, we will make of machines, but machines have been done since mankind.
Thank you. So, final point, perhaps, you know, taking into account that challenge and that critique, can you, in 1 or 2 sentences now at the end of the Political Tech Summit, formulate your vision and how that incorporates, the human factor into the whole thing? Manuel, I'll start with you, and then Anastasia, you have the last word.
Yeah, I really tried to do it in 2 sentences. First sentence, Doge is the wrong answer to the right question. I have a couple of more sentences, but I mean, obviously, like, it's just because Doge came up with really brutal and horrible ideas doesn't mean we shouldn't all care about government efficiency and effectiveness. That's my statement to that. And the second, I think we need visions. I think the vision's not coming out of the public sector. I think we need to be bullish about the positive impact of technology, because if we're not, nobody is. This is just my experience on that. So I keep on chanting the song of that technology can be very good, because I think we need a positive narrative of technology in public sector. That's missing for now, and this is why I keep on singing that song.
Thank you very much. Anastasia.
I had to pull out some stats. I'm so sorry. In fact, I was actually right when I said 1,000 years. OECD predicts AI could automate 84% of repetitive public transactions in the UK alone, equivalent to 1,200 full-time years saved. So that was actually right. So then I think my last sentence would connect to that. Again, the challenges we face right now as humanity they're calling us to step into our greatness. It's a human-led thing in any case, but we could use AI as a friend in co-creation, as a partner in delivery, as somebody who is with us. It doesn't have to overtake us, but really humans are the one driving that change, and it's up to us to make sure that AI integrates into our human system the way it is right now. So it's really a human challenge, but I'd like for us to see it more as a supporter than the ultimate enemy or worse. So would encourage us to stay optimistic and really co-create this together and design it the way we want it.
I think that's a beautiful sentence to end the Political Tech Summit 2026 officially. Thank you very much, both. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for bearing with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, too.
And now I would ask all the volunteers and the whole team on stage here, because those are the people who made the Political Tech Summit 2026 happen. All volunteers and the whole team, please come on stage. Please come on stage. I think we can fit everybody. We need to stand in more than one row, I suppose. All right. There are many people. There are many people. It's like in the opera when you have the orchestra, and there are almost as many people in the orchestra as in the audience. And those people made it all work. We have volunteers from literally all over the world, even though 50% of them heard this school, I guess. But we've had a great conversation, and really every continent is represented. So thank you very much, each and everyone. I've heard almost nothing other than reading the WhatsApp messages over the last 2 days. And if I don't hear anything, then it means things are going well, more or less. So thank you so, so much for helping making this a success. And I also want to thank the team who have been working tirelessly, not just for the last 2 days, but in some cases for the last months since the beginning of the year, to really make this a success. First and foremost, let me start. Where's Lucy? Here, Lucy. Here's Lucy. Hi, Lucy. So Lucy is the communications manager who has been communicating with you, who has been putting together this great newsletter, and who has been sending you invitations, much too many emails. It's not her fault, it's mine. And so thank you, Lucy, for the communication that you did for the last months. Where's Piers? Where's Piers? Piers is not here right now, then hopefully. Yeah, Piers is basically still taking care of everything. So in the meantime, I want to thank Luis, who has been actually achieving the impossible. He's been putting all the sessions online on the hub over the last hours. So what we presented today in the keynote was only possible because Luis made it possible. Thank you very much for taking care of the content. You have already met our COO Lucas, who has been actually delivering the MVP of the hub, and you have been meeting Benjamin, who has been taking care not just of moderation today, but also of getting the program together and the speakers and everything. So a big thank you to the both of you. I don't know, is Piers already here? Not yet? Then we'll thank Piers later, because Piers, and we're giving him a round of applause even if he's not here right now, but Piers has been in charge of helping the volunteers do what they do, and also has been helping me keeping sane over the last 6 to 8 weeks. It wasn't always easy, but a big thank you to Piers, and if you see him, please hug him. And finally, I really want to say a big thank you to Linus, who's standing there on the side. Linus has been, let me just say a few words. Linus has been the event manager, so you've been in touch with him, many of you, regarding your orders and the change of orders and the change of orders. Whatever you needed, and Linus was taking care of it. And Linus had a health scare on Thursday, and he is not in a good shape, but he still is. He is in a good shape, but so he still made it here and took care of everything. And the new setup for the ones who have been here last year, with the ground floor, with the silent stage, and now this stage here and so on, has been also to his initiative. So thanks, Linus, for taking care of everything. It really was fantastic. Thank you. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I say, let's go party. No.
And last but not least, because he's way too humble, our CEO, Joseph Lange, the Political Tech Summit was his brainchild. Joseph is moving fast and still not breaking things. A special round of applause.
Thank you. Let's go party. It's one floor down.